Good evening, good afternoon, good day, everyone. Good day, good day, good day. Welcome to your Tuesday videocast. My name is David Etienne of Etienne Business Solutions, and I welcome you again to our regular routine meetup on a Tuesday at 8 p.m. Hope you have been having a wonderful week. So what I've been doing since last week up to now is just to revisit some of those earlier videos that we had looked at, because in some instances you have new information, some modifications will come about, and there are other instances where additional information may be requested. Now today I refer back to a topic that we had looked at having to do with this whole tax settlement issue. I think even 2 weeks ago we spoke about some of the provisions that are available to taxpayers for settling their outstanding tax debts. One such that we mentioned was offer in compromise. Offer in compromise. We sort of glossed over it as one of the options. Got a few questions over the past week and decided I would get into a little more details here. We speak about fresh start. Everybody talk about fresh start, fresh start. And yes, offer in compromise is one of those vehicles that provides an opportunity for a fresh start. A fresh start from that burden of your tax debt. Now, offer in compromise, as it indicates, is essentially you, the taxpayer, saying to the federal government or the state government that yes, I owe some taxes. However, I am seeking an accommodation to be allowed to pay less than the full bill as full settlement of my debt. Simple. Okay? You're making an offer you're seeking a compromise, and so you're making a submission. You're making a submission to say, I owe X dollars, but would you consider taking an amount less than X dollars in full settlement of my tax debt? So that's what it's about. Offer in compromise. Now, I want us to just quickly go back to a form that I had mentioned a couple weeks back, Form 433A. 433-A. And essentially, it's a collection form. It's a collection form, meaning that's a form that you would have to complete to give to the IRS, the Fed government, all the necessary financial information that they would need to be able to determine, one, whether or not to favorably consider you for an offer in compromise, and two, if the answer is yes, we will consider, whether or not they will consider you at the figure that you are proposing. So let us say that you owed $10,000 and you're saying, can you guys agree to a settlement, to a full settlement by me paying just $1,000? They may say, yes, we agree to the compromise, but we do not agree with the $1,000 that you're proposing. Because when we look at the details of your submissions, which is done on Form 433A, we see where you can afford to pay more than $1,000 in full settlement of the $10,000. Let's go back. So then you find yourself with a tax debt and you say, okay, I'm thinking that I will explore an offer in compromise. Now, there are three headings. There are three categories under which you would consider submitting an offer in compromise. Okay? One is what we call doubt. I'm just using easy, in simple terms. Doubt to the liability. So basically you're saying, yes, you guys say I owe $10,000, but I am not in full agreement that I really owe $10,000. Now, it is not likely that you will say, no, I owe zero. You are more likely to say, yes, I got a letter to say I owe 10,000, but by my record and by my reckoning, I think the correct figure is more like $4,500. Okay? So it is really doubt to the liability being real. Now, if the IRS say that you owe 10,000 and you're saying to them, no, my true bill is about $4,500, then most naturally you have to back that up with some evidence. So you're going to pull whatever information you have. Don't know, you may want to consider filing an amended returns to include information that maybe was not provided before. That kind of thing, because you're saying that your figure, Mr. IRS, is wrong. I'm going to show you where my figure is right. So doubt to that the liability is true. That's category 1. A second possible category under which you can maybe seek an offer in compromise is what they call doubt to collectability. In this case, you're saying, yes, Mr. IRS, you say I owe $10,000, and I agree with you that I owe $10,000. However, I am unable, and I do not see wherever in the future that I will be able or will ever be able to pay you this full $10,000. So I'm not contesting that I owe. I'm not contesting that the figure I owe is $10,000. All I'm saying to you that there's no way that I will ever be able to pay this $10,000. Hence, I am seeking some accommodation through the vehicle known as offer in compromise. Okay, cool. And then now, there's the other case where we're talking about what we refer to as effective tax administration. Effective tax administration. And this is where you have a special circumstance that you want to bring to their attention. Quite often, it's like health, maybe an example would be a health condition. Yes, sir, I owe 10,000. Yes, I have assets that if I liquidate, or if I go into my bank account, or if I go to my retirement account, I would be able to maybe find the money to pay, but it would bring undue hardship, and so I'm seeking some leniency on what they call effective administration. Okay, so that's the 3 heading under which you would say, okay, I'm going to submit an offer in compromise. The most frequently used would be doubt to collectability. I'm agreeing that I owe that amount of money, but I'm unable to pay it. I will never be able to pay, so let's have a discussion. The IRS naturally, like any creditor, would prefer to collect some money as opposed to zero money. So they are willing to listen to you, to accept your submission for review to see what you're proposing. So you decide, I'm going to opt to submit an offer in compromise. So the first thing that we need to have, or the IRS will require, is for you to send the necessary information, financial information, that they will use, therefore, to determine whether or not you qualify under this umbrella. The Form 433A is a very comprehensive, intrusive form. It speaks to everything, all your assets, home, car, property, bank account, mortgage, insurance account, you name it, okay? It is an information gathering form because the IRS needs to know everything about all things financial. Okay, your income, your normal household expenses, all that details, so that it can determine whether or not you really is in a position where an offer in compromise is what will work for you. Because naturally, I would imagine, and you would imagine too, that a number of offer in compromise applications will go into the IRS, but once the IRS looks at the Form 433A and see the information, then they realize, okay, no, this guy can more than pay. All right. It is understandable that persons will try to give less than well, less than true information or less than the facts on those forms. No, definitely try to avoid that. Because remember, all the information that you can put on that 433A form is just for the IRS conveniently getting the information. Because if you notice on that form that at the end of it, it even goes on to say that you are to submit some supporting documents like the bank statement to show the balances that your claim is in there, and a couple other things. And to the extent that the IRS wishes, it can always find out all the information about whatever account, the mortgage account, the insurance policies you have, the investment account, you name it, the properties you have, those are easily discovered. So it is unwise and ill-advised for you to even think, right? There's even a requirement that you sign off to say that all the information that you have provided are true. And you could be liable if you lie, okay? So that is it. So here's that. Let me roll back quickly. So yes, you owe some taxes, and you hear about offer in compromise, and you say, yes, I'm going to go with that. I'm going to go for offer in compromise. There is what we call a qualifier or a qualifying tool. Essentially, it's just a simple little analysis that requires you to put in some information. A quick calculation is done, and that will give you an idea as to whether or not you are a likely candidate for a favorable offer in compromise submission. And here why it's important. Number one, you can always complete that offer in compromise application yourself. Of course, it's just filling in the form. You can complete the 433A, which is the information gathering form. Then you can go on to what you call is that like a form 656, which is really the offer in compromise. But the form 656 is supported by the 433A because that's where the information lies. It's just completing a form, so you can do that. Other individuals, because they're so scared of this IRS and tax matter, they decide, you know what, I prefer to have a professional do it. So they'll go to a tax attorney or a CPA or an enrolled agent, you name it, and say, okay, I want you to handle this for me. And so the agent or the representative will begin with the 433A. Under this scenario, without you doing that preliminary test to see if you're likely to be successful, you cannot determine it at that point. But you can have a good feel as to how likely you are to be considered favorably. If you fail to go through that first step, then you end up paying money. Assuming you engage the services of a professional, you end up paying money to get this thing done, to get this thing submitted, only for it to, as the saying goes, to be dead in the water, because the information that is reflected on that application from day one would not pass the first step, because once it is reviewed, it would have been determined that, okay, this ain't going anywhere. So had you done that preliminary evaluation or assessment, it would have told you that, okay, no, your circumstances are such that your assets, your disposable income, etc., will disqualify you from an offer in compromise consideration. And yes, when you go to a professional, quite often, once you give that information and they look at it, they may advise you and say, you know, based on what you're showing me here, I think you'll be wasting your time. Some professionals will advise you. Some will go ahead, make the submission, collect their fee, because that's what you engage them to do. only for you to find out down the road that nothing comes of it. So you want to actually do that. The second reason why you have to be very careful, think about it. If your situation is such that it will never pass first base with the IRS, it is good for you to ascertain that and therefore refrain from putting all your financial information, all your financial life on this paper, submit it to the IRS, and so all the things that it never knew about, was not interested in investigating, you just put it on this list, this form called a 433A form, and say, here it is. Now, it will not necessarily happen this way, but can you imagine that there are a number of things that you should have reported on your tax returns in the past, but for one reason or the other you decide, I'm not reporting them. But here you come now, complete this 433A form, and on that form is all this juicy information. So not only have you exposed yourself unnecessarily, because your offering compromise submission ain't gonna go anywhere, but you have also given juicy information into the IRS, which may conflict with what is on some of your prior tax returns. Then now you end up in a quandary, because not only are you not going to be considered for an offering compromise, but now you're in a position where the information provided could get you subjected to some kind of questioning. I won't say audit, I won't say review, but you know what I mean. There's a potential because you have not exposed yourself. So it is always good to go through that first step to determine whether or not it is worthwhile going through with the motion, going through with the procedure. So once you have done that, that's where. Now, as I pointed out, the 433A is the information gathering form. Then the 656, the form 656 is the actual offer in compromise, let's say calculation and submission. Okay? And we mentioned the different categories under which you will be considered. Now that usually goes in, and then the IRS will review all the information. Quite often they may contact you for additional information or for some clarification that they need to determine whether or not. They may ask for some additional proof of, information you provided, etc., to determine whether or not they will go forward. Assuming that all information received and reviewed is in your favor, and the IRS say, okay, yes, we will consider, then, as indicated earlier on, they may consider you favorably for the offering compromise, but the IRS may come back and say, whereas we will consider you for OIC, offering compromise, we will not, however, settle at $1,000 as full settlement for a $10,000 debt based on the information. So they may say, okay, you're gonna have to maybe do $2,500, okay? And then when you do $2,500, then yes, back and forth, they agree, okay, good. And so you say, yes, we'll go for $2,500. Now the good thing about it is that with an offering compromise, not only would you have successfully achieved in settling a $10,000 debt for only $2,500, you are not, even after that occur, you are still afforded some time, up to 24 months, up to 2 years, to actually pay this $2,500. So if you notice, the offering compromise significantly chops your overall bill from $10,000 to $2,500, and even then, you're allowed up to 24 months to pay this $2,500. So you actually go on a payment plan. Now, during that payment plan, believe me, it's a strict period. You have to adhere very strictly to the conditions of the offering compromise. Okay, you have to just keep up with your installment. You have to ensure that all your tax returns are filed on time. You have to be a good child. Because if you do or fail to do anything that cause a revocation, a cancellation of the offer in compromise, then, yes, here goes the horror story, everything rolls back to the initial $10,000. You now owe the $10,000 as if no offer in compromise was ever considered. Okay? Then, remember too, during the time, let us say you were making payment for a good year on that offer in compromise before you defaulted. And now that you have a default, it rolls back to now you owe, I mean, not that you owe 10,000 because you'd have been making payment, but then your original bill reverts to the 10,000. Then you may find that some interest and penalty now accrues, now come to flow back on your account, and before you know it, you're in the lurch again. You're in the lurch again. All right. So that again is another thing that you need to consider when it comes to offer in compromise. And yes, from the point that your offer in compromise is approved and you get on this plan to pay, then you cannot have any future tax debt. Meaning, if next year you prepare your taxes and you end up owing $2,000, it is not a case that you can say, okay, you can just add that $2,000 to the agreed on $2,500 of the offer in compromise. No, you cannot incur new debt. Because the intention of the offer in compromise is to help you to get out of debt. So any future debt that you have ought to be settled promptly within the given time so that you do not default on this offer in compromise. Okay? So that is exactly what we're looking at. But it's a very useful avenue or facilitation, because believe me, based on the circumstances of the taxpayer, you can find a taxpayer owing $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 and end up with a $5,000, $10,000 compromise. Yeah, compromise. But of course, those results or those outcomes is really at the end of a very rigorous, detailed process where the IRS will review and ensure that all information is correct, and that at the end of it all, yes, what you're claiming, what you're defending, what you're asserting to say, oh, this is my position, is true. Okay? Now, bear in mind too, as you expect, while you're going through the offer in compromise, any tax year subsequent that you will be due for a refund, naturally, that refund is going to be held against your debt, because you can't owe the IRS and then end up getting a refund from the IRS. That's crazy. Additionally, one of the conditions of the offer in compromise could be that 2 years subsequent to the end of this, let us say you got offer in compromise approved, you're given 2 years to repay, and at the end of the 2 years, you think, okay, everything is over, but it's not quite so. You'll find that for the next 2 years after the offer in compromise is fully settled, let us say that you file your taxes and you're due for a refund, you will find that that refund will be withheld. That's a little additional money withheld to go towards, the overall bill. Okay? After those 2 years subsequent to the closing of the offer in compromise period, then you go back to just have your normal flow. So that's the whole, what I call anatomy of your offer in compromise. The details, the specific details would be directly related to your particular circumstance and the facts of your case. But in a general sense, I think it is something that is worthwhile checking on. So that's about it for me for this evening. I thought I would just give you a little more insight, because I know quite a few persons are contemplating, hey, how can I get my tax debt, under control or to be fully liquidated? So you may want to consider that. So this is David saying thank you for joining me again on another Tuesday video cast. Yes, remember, check out my my YouTube channel, Etienne's Place, and be informed. I think I mentioned it last week, but I also, in closing, want to advise that Etienne Business Solutions have actually launched our new division, which is our consulting division. Okay, Etienne Strategic Management Consulting. Etienne Strategic Management Consulting. That's our new division focusing strictly on consulting services. All right, we continue to have our regular services under Etienne Business Solutions, but based on demand and the requests and the kind of interests that have been communicated to us, we recognize that a specific consulting division is really needed and will be in a better position to serve, the clients who are on that side that need that particular attention, separate and apart or in addition to regular accounting, tax, financial planning services. So that's it for me for now. David saying have a wonderful rest of the week as usual, and I will be able to shout you up again next week, same place, same time, 8 p.m. So take care of yourself until then.